was an unusual Moomin troll, said his mother, thoughtfully and sadly. He was always wanting to move from one stove to the next. He was never happy where he was. And then he disappeared. Took off with the ft.The, those little wanderers. What sort of folk are they? Asked the small creature. Little troll creatures, explained Moomin Mama. They're mostly invisible. Sometimes they can be found under people's floors, and you can hear them pattering about in there when it's quiet in the evenings. But mostly they wander around the world. Don't stay anywhere and don't care about anything. You can never tell if a ft.The is happy or angry, sad or surprised. I'm sure that they have no feelings at all. And is Moomin Papa a ft.The now? Asked Moomin Troll. No, of course not, said his mother. Surely you realize that they simply tricked him into going along with them. Imagine if we were to meet him one day, said Tulipa. He'd be pleased, wouldn't he? Of course, said Moomin Mama, but I don't expect we shall. And then she cried. It sounded so sad that they all began to sob, and as they cried they began to think about a lot of other things that were sad too, and that made them cry more and more. Tulipa's hair turned pale with sorrow and lost all its shine. When they had gone on like this for a good while, a stern voice suddenly rang out, saying, "What are you howling for down there?" They stopped at once and looked around them in all directions, but could not discover who it was talking to them. At the same time, a rope ladder came dangling down the rock face. High up there, an old gentleman stuck his head out through the door in the mountain. "Well?" he shouted. "Pardon me," said Tulipa, curtsying, "but you see, sir, it's really all very sad. Moomin Papa has disappeared, and we're cold, and can't get over this mountain to find the sunshine, and we haven't anywhere to live." "I see," said the old gentleman. "You'd better come up to my place, then. My sunshine is the finest you could imagine." It was quite hard to climb up the rope ladder, especially for Moomin Troll and his mother, as they had such short legs. "Now you must dry your feet," said the old gentleman, and drew the ladder up after them. Then he closed the door very carefully so that nothing harmful could sneak inside. They all went up a moving staircase that carried them right inside the mountain. "Are you sure this gentleman is to be trusted?" whispered the small creature. "Remember, on your own heads be it." And then he made himself as small as he could and hid behind Moomin Mama. Then a bright light shone toward them, and the moving staircase took them straight into a wonderful landscape. The trees sparkled with color and were full of fruit and flowers they had never seen before, and below them in the grass lay gleaming white patches of snow. "Hurrah!" cried Moomin Troll, and ran out to make a snowball. "Be careful, it's cold," called his mother. But when he ran his hands through the snow, he noticed that it was not snow at all, but ice cream. And the green grass that gave way under his feet was made of fine spun sugar. Criss-cross over the meadows ran brooks of every color, foaming and bubbling over the golden sand. "Green lemonade!" cried the small creature, who had stopped down to drink. "It's not water at all, it's lemonade!" Moomin Mama went straight over to a brook that was completely white, since she had always been fond of milk. Most Moomin Trolls are, at least when they get a bit older. Tulipa ran from tree to tree picking armfuls of chocolate creams and candies, and as soon as she had plucked one of the glowing fruit, another grew at once. They forgot their sorrows and ran further and further into the enchanted garden. The old gentleman slowly followed them and seemed very pleased by their amazement and admiration. "I made this all myself," he said. "The sun, too." And when they looked at the sun, they noticed that it really was not the real sun, but a big lamp with fringes of gold paper. "I see," said the small creature, and was disappointed. "I thought it was the real sun. Now I can see that it has a slightly peculiar light." "Well, that was the best I could do," said the old gentleman, offended. "But you like the garden, don't you?" "Oh yes," said Moomin Troll, whose mouth was full of pebbles just then. They were actually made of marzipan. "If you would like to stay here, I will build you a cake house to live in," said the old gentleman. "I get a bit bored here sometimes all on my own." "That would be very nice," said Moomin Mama. "But if you won't be hurt, I think we must be on our way. We were actually thinking of building a house in the real sunshine." "No, let's stay!" cried Moomin Troll, the small creature, and Tulipa. "Well, children," said Moomin Mama, "we'll see," as she lay down to sleep under a chocolate bush. When she woke up again, she heard a fearful moaning and realized at once it was her Moomin troll, who had a sore stomach. Moomins get sore stomachs very easily. It had become quite round from all he had eaten, and it was dreadfully sore. Beside him sat the small creature, who had got toothache from all the sweets, and was moaning even worse. Moomin Mama did not scold, but took 2 powders from her handbag and gave them each one, and then she asked the old gentleman if he had a bowl of nice hot porridge. "No, I'm afraid not," he said. "But there's a bowl of whipped cream and another one of jam." Said Moomin Mama. "Porridge is good for them, you see. Hot food is what they need. Where's Tulipa?" "She says she can't get to sleep because the sun never goes down," said the old gentleman, looking unhappy. "I'm truly sorry that you don't like it here." "We'll come back again," Moomin Mama consoled him. "But now I think I must see to it that we get out in the fresh air again." And then she took Moomin Troll by one hand and the small creature by the other and called for Tulipa. "You'll do best to take the switchback railway," said the old gentleman politely. "It goes right through the mountain and comes out in the middle of the sunshine." "Thank you," said Moomin Mama. "Goodbye then." "Goodbye then," said Tulipa. Moomin Troll and the small creature were not able to say anything as they felt so horribly sick. "Don't mention it," said the old gentleman. And then they took the switchback railway through the whole mountain at a dizzying speed. When they came out on the other side, they were quite giddy and sat on the ground for a long time recovering. Then they looked around them. Before them lay the sea, glittering in the sunshine. "I want to go for a bath," cried Moomin Troll, for now he felt all right again. "Me too," said the small creature. And then they ran right out into the sun's beam on the water. Tulipa tied her hair up so it would not go out, and then she followed them and stepped in very cautiously. "Pooh, it's so cold," she said. "Don't stay in long," called Moomin Mama, and then she lay down to sun herself, for she was still quite tired. All at once, an ant-lion came strolling across the sand. He looked very cross and said, "This is my beach. You must go away." "We certainly shan't," said Moomin Mama, "so there." Then the ant-lion began to kick sand in their eyes. He kicked and scratched until she could not see a thing. Closer and closer he came, and suddenly he began to dig himself into the sand, making the hole deeper and deeper around him. At last, only his eyes could be seen at the bottom of the hole, and all the while he continued to throw sand at Moomin Mama. She'd begun to slide down into the hole, and was trying desperately to climb up again. "Help! Help!" she cried, spitting sand. "Rescue me!" Moomin Troll heard her and came rushing up out of the water. He managed to catch hold of her ears and pulled and struggled with all his might, while he shouted rude names at the ant-lion. The small creature and Tulipa came and helped too, and then at last they managed to haul Moomin Mama over the edge, and she was rescued. The ant-lion continued to dig himself in out of pure annoyance, and no one knows if he ever found the way up again. It was a long while until they got the sand out of their eyes and managed to calm down a little. But by then, they had lost all their desire to bathe, and instead went on their way along the seashore in order to look for a boat. The sun was already going down, and behind the horizon, threatening black clouds were gathering. It looked as though there was going to be a storm. Suddenly, they caught sight of something moving further along the shore. It was a mass of small, pale creatures pushing a sailboat out. Moomin Mama looked at them for a long time, and then she called loudly, "Those are the wanderers! Those are the Hattifnatters!" and began to run towards them as fast as she was able. When Moomin Troll, the small creature, and Tulipa got there, Moomin Mama was standing in the midst of the Hattifnatters, who only came up to her waist, talking and asking questions and waving her arms and very excited. She asked over and over if they really had not seen Moomin Papa, but the Hattifnatters only looked at her for a moment with their round, colorless eyes, and then went on, pulling the boat toward the water. "Oh dear," Moomin Mama exclaimed. "I was in such a hurry that I forgot they can't speak or hear anything."